Hi everybody and welcome back. Today's video is going to be about task 4.2. So in task 4.2, our learning target is I can solve multi-step equations. So we're going to be looking at solving equations today that have many steps as part of the process. I'm going to ask you guys to please turn to the second page of your notes and we're going to go through some examples of solving equations and talk about our strategies. So here's the good news. All those strategies that we've been learning up until now are great because they're still going to work for these problems. So my first step in problem 1 is going to be to draw a vertical line through the equal sign in order to remind myself that this equation is balanced and whatever I do, I need to do it on both sides to keep it balanced. Now you'll notice that this is an equation that has a parentheses, and there are many different ways to solve an equation like this. Here is the way that I like to do it. I know that when this number is on the outside of the parentheses, it means multiplication. That's why when I distribute, I multiply. So the first thing I'm going to deal with is getting rid of that 6. So I'm going to divide by 6 on both sides, because division is the inverse of multiplication. When I divide, the 6 cancels the 6, and so I just get x plus 2 dropped down. And 24 divided by 6 gives me 4. Now I can solve this by doing what I've always done, which is subtract 2 on both sides. And I get x equals 2 minus 2 is 0, and 4 minus 2 is 2. So x equals 2. Now, like I said, there's lots of different ways to do this problem. This is my favorite way to do this problem. For number 2, I'm going to go ahead and draw a vertical line to remind myself to keep this balanced. And now I'm going to start getting x by itself. Now I'm noticing that this is a big division problem. And I also know that the opposite of division is multiplication. So to get the 4 to go away, I'm going to multiply by 4 on both sides. Now that means that this 4 cancels this 4, and the 5 times 4 is 20. I'm going to drop down the 3x plus 2. Now that next equation, if you look at just this equation, looks just like an equation we learned how to solve before. So in order to solve this, I'm just going to subtract 2 on both sides as my next step. And that gives me 3x equals 20 minus 2, which is 18. And then I'm going to divide by 3 on both sides, which gives me 18 divided by 3 is 6. The 3's cancel, and so I just have x. And we're done. For problem number 3, I'm noticing that this has a fraction, but this equation, the fraction is not the entire left-hand side. If you look at problem number 2, the entire left-hand side was a fraction. In this one, the fraction is only one part of it. So before I deal with the fraction, I'm going to go ahead and add 7 on both sides to get the fraction by itself. If I add 7 on both sides, the 7's cancel, and 11 plus 7 is 18. I'm going to drop down the 2x divided by 5, and now I'm going to deal with this fraction. To undo the division, I'm going to multiply by 5 on both sides. And I'm going to drop down my 2x. 18 times 5, and again, you can use a calculator for this, please feel free, is 90. Last but not least, I'm going to divide by 2 on both sides. And I get x equals 2 divided by 2 cancels, and 90 divided by 2 gives you 45. For problem number 4, I'm going to go ahead and draw a vertical line through my equal sign. Now I'm noticing that this time I have a 3/4 on the outside. So to undo the divide by 4, I'm going to multiply by 4 on both sides. So this 4 will cancel this 4. Now when I drop this down, I'm still going to have the 3 and then the x minus 6. And 21 times 4 is 84. Next, I'm going to divide by 3. And I'm going to divide by 3 because division is the inverse of multiplication. So 3 divided by 3 cancels, 84 divided by 3 would be 28. And I'm going to drop down my x minus 6. Last but not least, I'm going to add 6 on both sides. And when I simplify, I get x equals 28 plus 6 is 34. All right, we have a few more examples to try, so let's try number 5. In problem number 5, again, my goal is to get x by itself. So because the left-hand side is one big fraction, I'm going to just multiply by 3 on both sides in order to get the 3 to cancel, so it's not a big fraction anymore. 12 times 3 is 36. Now I'm just going to drop down the 2x plus 4. And then this is an equation that we already learned how to solve before. So I'm just going to subtract 4 on both sides, which means I get 2x equals 36 minus 4 is 32. And then I'm going to divide by 2 on both sides. So the 2's cancel, and I get 32 divided by 2 makes 16. And I just drop down the x. In problem number 6, you'll notice it has very similar numbers to how we did, so the numbers that were in number 5. But you're going to notice that the solving looks a little different because there are parentheses in this problem. Now I'm going to start this equation the same way. I'm going to multiply by 3 to undo the fraction because multiplication is the opposite of division. So I'm going to drop down the 2 parentheses x plus 4. And then 12 times 3 is 36. Next, I'm going to divide by 2. And the reason I'm dividing is that 2 is on the outside of the parentheses, so it means multiplication. The opposite of multiplication would be division. So the 2's cancel, and 36 divided by 2 is 18. Last but not least, I'm going to subtract 4 on both sides. So I get x equals, and the 4's cancel, and 18 minus 4 is 14. Now number 7 also has very similar numbers to problems 5 and 6. It's just that they've been arranged in a different way, and so the solving is going to look a little bit different. In this problem, I don't have a big fraction. I actually have a big multiplication problem because the 2 is on the outside of the parentheses. So to undo multiplication, I'm just going to divide. Now when I do that, I'm going to drop down the x divided by 3 plus 4, and 12 divided by 2 is 6. Now I'm going to subtract 4 on both sides. I'm going to drop down the x divided by 3, and 6 minus 4 is 2. Finally, I'm going to multiply by 3 on both sides to undo the division. And I'm going to drop down my x. 2 times 3 is 6. And I'm done. The last problem for today, again, has very similar numbers, but we're going to solve it a little differently because it's arranged a little differently. It has a different original equation. In this problem, I do have a fraction, but it's only one part of the left-hand side of the equation. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually subtract 4 because I'm not going to multiply by 3 until the fraction is the only thing on the left-hand side. Now, the 4's cancel, and 12 minus 4 would be 8. I'm going to multiply by 3 on both sides in order to undo the division. And 8 times 3 would be 24. I'm going to go ahead and drop down my 2x. Last but not least, I'm going to divide by 2. And I get x equals 24 divided by 2, which makes 12. All right, that is it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this made sense, and I'll see you soon for some practice.